Dark Star, Cam Smith goes to LIV after winning the Open Championship and then successfully competing in the FedEx because he wanted to. But his ship had sailed by that time. Why does a guy who is at the tippy top of his game on presumably the greatest tour in the world, we're told over and over again that it's the greatest place to play golf ever, why does he leave? Why does he leave? That's what we're going to get into right now.
Well, he fits into our category of unfulfilled, of course. He has that personality where he has an opportunity to leave the PGA Tour, and it's a no-brainer for him. And we have had an issue here. We've been off the air for a while, and
we have been off the air. We should have mentioned that.
We should have mentioned.
I blame you. I blame you.
I'm sure most people blame me for their problems, so yeah,
I blame you.
You should fall right into that category.
I
jump
will.
on the bandwagon. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be on the bus.
Why have we been
Faraday.
off the air? It's really my fault. I will take credit for the problems. Travel woes, really travel woes.
Yeah.
Little children, travel woes. Then technology problems all kind of came together and kept us off the air for about 2 weeks. So it wasn't on purpose. We were going to run through the conspiracy theories, though.
Yeah,
we didn't. It was not a retreat over in Jupiter with Greg, although that would be lovely.
That would be nice. Greg, we're still the phone. Still call us anytime.
Be lovely. Yeah. The closest I've been to Greg's house is cleaning the barnacles off his boat, and that I didn't do that. But that would be about as close as if I were to go over there. So it wasn't that. We didn't get recruited to LIV. The checks that they've been sending in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to sponsor the show stopped suddenly. When the model started succeeding, they stopped paying us, and here we are. We took a little hiatus to regroup.
Faraday fell off the wagon. We had to join him for a couple weeks.
True.
Let's go.
True. We held hands.
Held hands.
Sang songs. You know how the Irish like to sing songs.
Yeah,
that was fully enjoyable. We're back, and we didn't leave on purpose, so we wouldn't expect to have another hiatus like that one. So our apologies. It wasn't on purpose. So Cam Smith does fit into our categories of why players go. If I were the head of recruitment or sales for LIV, which I am not, I would say the three buckets are disgruntled. That was DJ and others. Unfulfilled, which is certainly Cam Smith. We also say Hideki fits into that category for very different reasons, but that is their same category. We've now gotten past Zozo, so Hideki hopefully heading our way, making us look smart. Hopefully, Hideki, don't make us look stupid. And opportunistic would be the third category. And there's certainly a marquee player that fits into that category, and others, meaning there's more opportunity over here on LIV than there is on the PGA Tour for you, particular player, the opportunities that you are seeking. And those are different for different players. So Cam in the unfulfilled, and I have an interesting personality thing to relate about him that makes him fit in the category. But what's your take? You have some of his background. I have lots of notes on his background as well. You want to take a swing at his background?
I want to jump right into one thing that I think is a little bit different. He fits more into the self-satisfied because of his meteoric rise and the sacrifice he put in. Remember, there are almost nobody who's made it to the PGA Tour on sponsors exemptions. And he went from a sponsor's exemption to the pinnacle. He won a major championship. He's the most recent major winner. And you look at, he sacrificed his youth. He went from the age of 22 to the age of 29, doing nothing essentially but living out of a suitcase. Now, eventually, in the last few years, sure, he's bought a house in Florida and that kind of thing. But that purchase in Florida allowed him not to go home for 3 years. He didn't even see his dog for 2 years. Think about that. So,
is that right? His dog was in Australia?
His dog was in Australia, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure we have a lot of dog owners out there.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
So it's a little bit of a change since we originally put a lot of this together a couple weeks ago. I've had somewhat of an epiphany here because, I
Had an epiphany in the basement.
Well, in the basement, yes. I've been stuck in the basement. Yeah.
Okay.
Now don't make me lose my train of thought. It's a killer. Then I start mumbling and
I
stumbling.
love to make you lose your train of thought.
So that being said, I recently actually had dinner with somebody who's very good friends with a major champion.
Major winner, a major
winner.
golf champion,
Okay.
yes.
The one thing he talked about, family, kids, when you're in that state on the PGA Tour, the pressure is incredible. You're living out of a suitcase. The pressure's incredible. And for Cam Smith to do what he did in such a short period of time is incredible with the pressure he must have overcome. But now you get to relieve that pressure. You get to go back to your life. You get to go back to Australia. This is why it's a no-brainer for him. You get to go back to Australia. You get to, see your friends, see your family, see your coaches. But you also get to reward those people with your presence. You're there. Now you're a major champion. You get to enjoy life. You get to you get to drive your cars. Now, none of us would ever speed, but Cam at the back end gets a little loose. He's not thinking about golf. He's enjoying himself. So I've had a little bit of a change of heart. I got all these notes and I'm totally off script here. But for me, it's self-satisfaction. And, you talk about that worn out, that hackneyed phrase where they left it all on the field. I've also know a pro football player who had a career-ending injury. And last time we spoke, it's a situation of, he was self-satisfied. He's not Emmitt Smith. He's not Tom Brady. But he is satisfied with his career where he doesn't have regrets. Cam Smith has no regrets going to the LIV Tour. It's a better lifestyle. It fits his personality. Everything we've read about, he's a grounded individual. He loves his friends, loves his family, loves his hobbies. You get a season. You got 15 events. You know when you're going to play. You can plan your trips. It's not like, I missed the cut. I got to go play next week again. I need FedEx Cup points. I need money points. It's a totally different situation. And as the last quick aside, Jakarta just won on the LIV Tour, and he's a young guy. He's under contract to perform. And it was ironic that I saw Patrick Reed and Bland miss short putts, and the young guy who normally should be feeling the pressure, not feeling the pressure. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge difference. Having fun, having a job with a contract, being relaxed. And I know people are going to bring up, the money does this, the money does that. But once again, you have the opportunities, you have the enjoyment, you have your family, your lifestyle. Those things are way more important than whatever is going on in your head there about finances. So
it's all true. That Shakara win is a whole different show.
Yeah.
Imagine what that, again, if I were head of recruiting and sales for LIV with players, that does a lot for my next conversation with the next college player.
Absolutely.
You can come out, you can win, $4 million plus the team. So for what, $4.7 million right away. That's nice. That's nice. And that's going to, proving that it works to the young guys is, I'm sure the PGA Tour is concerned. They need to be. They should be. I think everything you just said about Cam Smith fits in with who he is as a person, right? So, a guy like Tiger Woods is sort of the polar opposite from Cam Smith. So Tiger is laser focused, sacrifice everything else for his mission, which is to win more majors than Jack Nicklaus, and nothing else matters. And he's happy that way. That's the way he's built, or it's the way he's wired. Fine. There are a lot of guys wired. Like most corporate CEOs are that way. Not all, but a lot of them are. And they don't see their families. They work on Saturdays and half of Sunday. They're happier at work than at home, much happier. And they are driven to accomplish the next goal. And that's what fires them up, and that's what excites them in their life. That's their desire. And remember, desire is not for sale. That's not Cam Smith. That's not the way he's wired. So when you're looking down the roster of top players, when you're LIV, and we'll tie in our January list of this year, our January list of top targets for LIV, which was Tiger, Spieth, and then moving on down the list, Cam was, I believe, 9th on that list.
Yeah, that's where he
serves. Yeah, and he had just won Kapalua, and he was 10th in the world. So he's 9th on the list after Koepka, I think, was 8th. We'll put the list up, and I'll have it there.
Yeah.
And but if you look down those names, you can sort of, if you know what you're doing, you can, and you know the personality types, you know who's disgruntled, you know who's a little unfulfilled, you know who's opportunistic. So you break them into categories, and then you decide who you can get. Not everybody's going to come. Some guys are totally risk averse in that department. They're like, I can't take that kind of risk. My wife would kill me. My parents would kill me. My dad was a PGA teaching professional. What would he ever say? You think Justin Thomas could just go to LIV and his father wouldn't crush him with a baseball bat? Like, we're PGA Tour guy, we're PGA professionals. You can't leave the PGA. So he's got no chance of going anywhere. He would never do that. It wouldn't cross his mind to do that. But Cam Smith, sort of the opposite. He's an amiable guy, and the way we think about it in business is an amiable personality. So his focus from a personality standpoint is relationships. Relationships mean a lot to him. What do you want to say, Darkstar?
One thing about Cam and his personality, he's also the realistic aspect of, he doesn't hit it off the planet like Rory. The odds on him winning, so he's exempt. Let's say the whole thing falls apart and he only plays in the next 20 majors. The odds on him winning one of those are very slim, and I think he's realistic. If you take the Koepka model, half the time he's not going to be playing well enough. Half the time somebody's just going to be flat out playing lights out and you're not going to beat him. So if he's on 3-4 leaderboards in the next 20 majors, he's probably going to be pretty happy. His fans and his entourage are going to be plenty happy with him. So he's not even concerned like a Tiger would be concerned, or some of those other guys with that driver type A personality. So yeah, I just wanted to get that in.
It's his orientation. It's his, not, if you think, audience, and I know the plugged in thinking men out there, thinking men and women out there get it. But if you think about it, obviously not all people have the same personalities. All people don't have the same desires. People are very different. Yes, professional athletes have similarities. Yeah, they're driven, obviously. But drive is not the first thing in the stack of 3 things that you must have to be an overachiever in any profession, but we're just in sports right now. Number 1, desire. You have to want it bad, because you're going to give up a lot of other things. So, for whatever reason, Cam Smith's desire is to play golf. His dad's a good player. He grows up, in Australia playing golf. Fine. And he's good at it. So he loves it. Some people love, chocolate chip cookies. He just loves golf. He picks up a club, he plays, he loves it. He falls in love with it. Yeah, does he like rugby? Yeah, hell yeah, he loves rugby, but he's a little guy. So he can't play rugby, not really, not even in high school in Australia. So he loves golf, he plays golf. That's what he's doing. Fine, that's his sports desire. Then you need talent, but talent is second to desire. After that, you need drive, motivation, practice, work ethic. That's third. You can have all the work ethic and all the desire in the world, but if you're lacking talent, you never get to be a pro. You can have all the desire in the world, but if you're lacking talent, you don't get to be a pro. You can have all the talent in the world, lack desire, and you're not going to be great at anything. Some talented players manage to sneak up and do one thing occasionally, but if you're Tiger Woods, you have desire, you have talent, you have work ethic. You have all 3 in spades. Tom Brady, pick any top athlete, they all have those 3 qualities in that order. So Cam has those things, but he also has a very different personality than Tiger. I said he was the polar opposite of Tiger. Exactly. So Tiger doesn't value relationships at all. Cam does, highly. So the minute that he had enough success to get a job with an employer that would allow him to refocus on the relationships that he's had to put aside to make second or even third in his life, he jumped at the opportunity. And that type of sales engagement with him at first and his people and his team would be, hey, this is going to give Cam a chance to reconnect with all the people that he's had to put in the second place for all these years? Is that important to him? And his agent and his caddy and his best friends are like, hell yeah, that's super important to him. Explain it. Tell us more. And now we have a negotiation. It was pretty straightforward. Then it becomes, all right, well, can he play in the majors? Can he still play golf at a high level? How's the money? Those things all become important after the first thing, which is the desire part, which is his desire to go back to Australia more, as you say, a Dark Star, and reconnect with his relationships.
Well, not
Does that
only
sound
that,
right to you?
It's well put, well said, but and as important as we talk about, he does have the opportunity to bring golf to Australia, to bring golf to the rest of the world. And I think what he saw in some of his mentors, Greg Norman, Adam Scott, Jason Day, those type people, they had to become U.S. citizens. Why is Jason Day not on the LIV Tour? Because he's entrenched in, where does he live? Columbus, Ohio, with his wife and kids. And Cam Smith gets to bring not only himself, but he gets to bring a big part of golf back to Australia. I'm sure there's going to be a tournament in Australia at some point soon, a big tournament on LIV. Those are huge. Yeah. Those are huge things that you're going to give something back, and he has that personality where he feels the need to give something back, and he's bringing golf back to Australia and to the international.
Because he cares about people,
relationships. And he mentioned in how many press conferences he still wanted to play in the President's Cup, and as our audience realizes, the PGA Tour owns the President's Cup. The PGA Tour owns the Players. Those are their two big things, and they've drawn a line in the sand. And as a quick aside, I think that's why the Ryder Cup, I think the Europeans are going to play in the Ryder Cup, and it's a totally different animal. And I feel bad for Cam because he was shut out of that, not because of what he did per se, but because of the PGA Tour shut him out. The Americans shut him out, and he can bring more golf back internationally. And I hope I said that properly, but it was not his fault he's not on the President's Cup.
Oh, I can see the comments now. Because we do look at those. Those comments do get to us. Please keep them coming.
Yeah.
You can be mean. That's okay. We will keep it on the high road from our point of view. Max, the producer, keeps a very high road. Of course, he made the decision to go to LIV. So all the little, commentators out there that think that's a stupid thing to say, it's not. But he chose to go to LIV and, reap the rewards, suffer the consequences. Fine. Yeah, I don't think Cam doesn't give a rip that, about. Well, let me not say that way. He obviously values the President's Cup much less than the things that we just said about his relationships in his life. Yeah, there are priorities, right? Relationships first for him, golf second, whatever, third, fourth, fifth, fishing third, cars fourth, some order. You'd have to get down, and he probably doesn't even know. He's probably never sat down with a piece of paper. Most people don't. But you could drag it out of him if he was willing to, get honest with you and answer your questions, and you get it on a piece of paper. And I don't know where President's Cup is. Would he love to be? Sure, but it's not first, second, third, or he wouldn't have done what he did. He wouldn't have done what he did. You could never take the major opportunities to play and win away from Tiger Woods. He would not do anything in this world to sacrifice an opportunity to play in a major and potentially win it.
Right.
He would not.
The last point about the President's Cup is Cam Smith essentially by staying and playing in the President's Cup and delaying his move to LIV, he would have actually been helping the PGA Tour, the very entity that he now despises. Let me give you one thing. Who
despises the PGA?
I think Cam Smith does.
Nah, why would he? Cam Smith's not capable of despising anybody.
Okay, you're right. He's not capable of despising.
He's a nice guy. Super nice.
He's a nice guy.
He's an amiable. Very interested in everybody getting along. Everybody should get along. That's what. But
something else that just popped into my head is another reason for him to go. Obviously, he and Scottie Scheffler clearly separated themselves this year in golf, correct? I mean, Scheffler was Player of the Year. You can argue which should have been Player of the Year, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. The FedEx Cup playoffs, Cam Smith finished 20th. So he's number 1 or number 2 player of the year, and 20th at the FedEx Cup, he got a handshake and a pat on the back. Really? So don't think it's like, really, I played the whole year. Now I don't even feel like playing golf anymore. I'm burnt out after I win the Open. Now I got to go play in these playoffs to get my retirement?
Well, to get big money, I suppose, is what he wants.
Yeah,
Notoriety, whatever. He was playing well, obviously.
I think he finished 20th out of the 29 players who showed up. So, it gets to a point where he's fed up. He was probably also fed up. So he doesn't hate the PGA Tour, but he's fed up.
Yeah, we should say this more often. We don't say it enough on this show when we're talking about these particular kinds of things. These guys, and we're talking golf today, it could be any subject. These guys, including Cam Smith, love to play golf, and they love, therefore, to compete and win. And as an athlete, Dark Star's an athlete, there's, little in life that feels better, at least to me, I think to most athletes, than winning a highly competitive game, match, whatever, and you're laying on the field, the pitch, the court, whatever, in the locker room, and you're spent. You left it all out there and you won. There are things that feel that good, but there's nothing that feels just like that. I've never experienced that feeling except in that situation, and it doesn't come that often. Your team could win the Super Bowl, but maybe you didn't catch the winning touchdown or throw the winning, or have a great game, or you played but it wasn't, and that still feels good. But it's not like spending it all and coming off with nothing left and you won. So the chance to go to the FedEx Cup and play against the other 29 guys in the world that are the best at the moment, who's going to pass that up? If they didn't give any money away at the FedEx Cup, most of those guys would still go. They go to the Ryder Cup and they don't get paid there. Until recently. I don't know how they're doing it now, but forever you didn't get paid anything. I bet you a lot of those guys would go to the FedEx Cup for no money if it was a chance to win and get notoriety for beating those other guys. If you don't think Cam doesn't want to beat those other guys, of course he does. Of course he does. So we don't say that enough. So desire to win, desire to play, desire to achieve and conquer, and it's different for everybody. Tiger wanted to conquer. Cam wants to win for whatever his reasons are. And everybody has a little bit, but they all want to win, or they wouldn't be there. Let's not overlook the fact that these guys have been playing golf nonstop since they were 8. Yeah.
And,
or 7.
Right. And Cam Smith's personality also then fits more in with the LIV because they're having more fun. I bet I can only imagine the side games that Phil Mickelson is running. Could you even picture what's really going on?
If you're a relationship guy, and Cam is, where do you think he would fit in better? Which tour is more of a relationship kind of? I don't want to say family, but more of a team atmosphere.
Sure, that's a no-brainer. It's the LIV event.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure that was discussed in the negotiation.
Yeah. And for the fans too, if you're a fan of Cam Smith, you get to see him every week. It's not like it's not like you turn on the TV Saturday afternoon. It's like, oh, Smith's not playing this week. I thought he was. Darn it.
Yes. Well, that speaks to the LIV model, but the LIV model obviously works for certain players. So
right.
Let's why did Cam go? It fits his personality. And that fits with who he is. So given the chance to play PGA Tour, be successful, LIV Golf, be successful, which way is he going to go? He's going to go where he feels better. In his case, feels better, which is different than the other guys.
Right. Absolutely. It's his lifestyle, returns, the enjoyment. He's with his mates. I mean, we didn't even mention, we had notes here about how one of his good friends he brought over to the United States with him because he felt homesick. You imagine Tiger Woods feeling homesick? Oh, we're going to get a lot of hate mail on Tiger, but okay.
Jack. His friend Jack, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but Wickaz, or Wickaz. Okay. Wilkaz or something.
Leave it at that.
Jack's friend moved over. Yeah, he was lonely.
Yeah. So
he didn't have a girlfriend. He was lonely. Now he's got a girlfriend. Be interesting to see if she goes to Australia with him, in the off season, which is coming up. Now he'll play down in Australia. I suppose he has every intention of playing some events down there if they'll let him, because it's summertime in Australia, right? I'm going to sneak in some of Cam's background right now, because we skipped over that part. There's some. Well, it's interesting. I don't think it didn't drive the decision, but it is interesting, and it's illustrative of how hard it is to be a pro golfer. So he is that good of a player. But so he's born in '93, right? So 2013, he's 20 years old, and he did something at 30. He wins the Australian Amateur, so he's the top amateur in Australia. Uses that to get a shot at the Corn Ferry Tour because he was the top amateur in Australia. Misses his tee time. Flies back in November of 2013. Flies back to Australia. Probably wants to jump off a bridge, and has to recover from missing his tee time. Separate story. I think we mentioned it somewhere. But you can look that up. And joins the Asian Tour. He's overachieves on the Asian Tour as a nobody. But then he finishes a bunch of top fives, I think it was. Got an exemption, worked his way up. I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty, but he ends up getting into the 2015 U.S. Open at Chambers Bay and finishes, fourth? Finishes T4 at Chambers Bay as a nobody, and nobody ever heard of him. And that opened all kinds of doors for him. Suffice to say, that was the magic moment. That was the hockey stick in his pro golf career. So after 2015, it wasn't a smooth. I don't want to say don't correct me. It wasn't a smooth sailing, but it was basically, if you had to point to an inflection, that was where he took a right-hand turn and things got a whole lot better. Because he had a rocky 2016, I think, and then 17 was a good season, and then
17 was not going well, but he won the tournament in New Orleans paired with Jonas Blix.
I was surprised to see. Not surprised. I guess that validated what I suspected, which was that he was pretty tight with Mark Leishman, and even though they're pretty far apart in age, I think it's kind of like an older brother, younger brother kind of thing. But he beats Leishman in the 2018 Australian PGA Championship by 2 shots. So they had some back and forth that whole weekend, and then probably hung out together after the tournament, because they kept seeing each other in competition a lot. And as the only 2 Australians over here on this side that were doing anything in the PGA Tour, I'm sure they got to know each other very, very well.
Well, it's a long and it's a very, very difficult road. I mean, it is damn hard the way he went. Like I said, there's only been a few players in the history of the PGA Tour that have made it big on sponsors exemptions. Besides Jordan Spieth, I can't even think of anybody. So that's, yeah. Anyway.
2 great putters. How about that?
2 great putters.
Better to be a great putter.
Always go to dinner with great putters. Yes.
Okay, so Cam is not as complicated as sort of DJ's transition. It was DJ's disgruntled. There's always more to, why is he disgruntled? For a guy that's just naturally a better fit for, hamburger B versus hamburger A, that's an easier story to tell. But the interesting part, therefore, is not what happened. It's who he is. Who is Cam Smith? So keep your eye on Cam. Notice that he's a relationship guy. Likes to see everybody getting along. Likes to have his friends around him, around the campfire, singing songs, so to speak, which is what he did after he won the Players' Championship. Everybody came back to his house in Ponte Vedra, or near there, and they had a party around his backyard fire pit till 3 a.m. He didn't go to some crazy thing. He wanted to go home and have his good friends come over. And that's the kind of guy he is. So keep your eye on him. It'll be fun to watch him on LIV because that does lend itself to that atmosphere much more so than the PGA Tour.
And as we're wrapping it up here, one last comment here. We've done a couple things on the OWGR, and we're going to have another show because the narrative needs to change. Everybody has this narrative that LIV needs to change. No. If you are the official world golf ranking system, you need to rank all the professional golfers in the world in a just fashion. When UCLA and USC join the Big Ten, are we going to stop ranking them because they're now in a different conference? They're playing different style of football. They're going to have to go play in the cold. So the narrative needs to change. LIV needs to start changing the narrative. It's not up to them to change, because don't call yourself the official World Golf Rankings if you're not ranking in a manner that is just and fair. All the players in the world.
You're ignoring top players.
Yeah.
So you can't really be an inclusive organization. Now, I hear the wheels turning out there in YouTube world.
Well,
they
need
play
to
72
they need to
holes.
stop calling themselves the OWGR and just call themselves what they are, the PGA Tour ranking, PGA Tour feeder ranker system.
Well, we haven't even
ranking
published
system.
this episode, and I can already see the comments. They're already pouring in, which is,
Good.
Dark Star, you're an idiot. They don't play 72 holes, therefore they don't qualify to be ranked. And I would say, no, the line is not that far on one side. So if Dustin Johnson, because this is what I said to Dark Star the other day when he was telling me about this episode, if Dustin Johnson plays against me and Dark Star and he's giving us shots, and of course he doesn't get points for that. Does he get points if he plays with 6 or 8 guys and just, drinks some beers at Firestone and for 2 days? No. But if he's playing 54 holes against other top players, that's not zero. That's not. They're playing for $4 million first prize.
And
it's
the field,
not nothing.
Right. Let's be honest. The field.
That's not where the line is. That's not where the line is.
The field in Bangkok was infinitely better than the slot machine open in Vegas. Okay, let's just leave it at that.
Yes. And 54 holes is enough to get something. Come on.
Well, here's how ridiculous the OWGR is. One of our audience members pointed out that the flagship event on the European Tour, I can't call it the DP Tour, the flagship event on the European Tour, the BMW, is worth less than the Wine Country Open in Napa. I don't even know what do they call it. The Fortnite. It's after a video game and wine.
Fortinet.
Yeah, it's
a cyber company.
Think about that. That's ridiculous. And I will bet you. So they just had the Alfred Dunhill. That's worth less than all of the minor PGA Tour events. And that is the equivalent of their Pebble Beach Pro-Am.
At St. Andrews. At the fabled old course.
So anybody who tells you that the World Golf Ranking is a just system, you can't have a legitimate conversation with them. They're not ranking the best players.
Well, yeah, it's not. I mean, I hate to use the word inclusive, but because it's overused. Not that it's not effective, but it's not inclusive. It's not trying. It's trying to exclude one group instead of trying to include that group.
Right.
Can we say it that way?
So your goal is to rank the professional golfers in a subjective manner. If you're excluding a Dustin Johnson, that's ridiculous. If you're excluding a Cam Smith, it's not a system that's valid. It cannot be valid. Anybody who agrees that thinks it's a valid system, if you're not including 20 of the top 50 players, well, how do you have a conversation? The problem is that's why I say they need to change the narrative. The narrative is not correct.
You've got to connect the other side of the dots, though, so that the naysayers don't say it for you.
Yeah.
The others, you got to connect the dots.
More on that.
Dustin Johnson is playing 54 holes tournaments against other top players. This is not a member guest. This is not a hit and giggle. This is a real golf. And you could say that it's not 72 holes, it doesn't have a cut. That's fine. Say that. Fine. But it's not zero. It is real golf for real money. And therefore, Dustin Johnson being a real player, and most of the other guys out there are good players. It should be worth something. It should be worth something. And you can figure out, well, okay, what are the 48 guys that are playing 54 holes worth competitively? There's a way to do that mathematically, sure.
Right.
Is that worth more than the Las Vegas tournament that Dark Star keeps referencing? Probably in my mind, not, definitely, but it's not zero. Clearly, it's not zero. That's all for this video. For Dr. Darkstar and me, thanks for watching. This is a show about finding logical conclusions, and we appreciate you coming along with us. We'll be adding episodes as fast as we can. There's certainly no shortage of things going on in this world.